Happy New Year, my ninjas. I am Strident, and welcome to my Unfun and Fun of 2021. Um, First things first, welcome to the new year. I wanted to let you guys know, just in case, this is my look at the most fun and unfun. These are figures I purchased last year. It's not only stuff that came out last year, so that's what I'm judging. Also, take some time to, hit like, subscribe, etc. Check me out on Patreon, those other places, because this stuff takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I'm doing this while I have COVID. Tail end of it, but my whole family caught it. So, a little bit extra work and you're feeling like shit the whole time. But since this is action figures we're talking about, and it's my happy place, this will help me through it. So anyway, let's just get this thing started. Okay, let's get this started with Super 7 April O'Neil. This is a figure that I expected to be leaps and bounds better than the NECA version. The NECA version, you heard all the things. Head's too big, there was the issue I had with the ball joint for her, waist, diaphragm, etc. It just tends to pop out if you don't, if you move her too much. But this figure falls short in so many areas, For an update, she doesn't have double jointed knees, double jointed elbows. Range of motion almost everywhere is lacking. And then she's huge. And I don't understand why April would need to be one of the big figures, in a line full of already big figures. She just doesn't quite do it for me. Very disappointing figure. McFarlane Deku figure from My Hero Academia. You're looking at it and you're like, damn, what's wrong with it? I mean, you already know it's a McFarlane figure, so people have complaints. Mine are just QC complaints with my particular version, and almost every My Hero Academia figure that I've picked up. The arms just don't want to stay in. And, you can't really enjoy the figure if it doesn't stay together. And for a while, I was like, hey, he's just going to sit there on my shelf until I'm able to get the 5-inch one. And then I got the 5-inch one, and it wasn't what I was expecting. So, yeah, McFarlane is a bust for me when it comes to My Hero Academia. But, luckily, we have, other avenues for those figures from that series. So, pretty happy about that. But the QC curse strikes again. Can't have an unfun list without various Marvel Legends figures. So these seem to be mostly the captains, select versions of certain captains, etc. So with Hasbro, it's always an issue where they try to do different things to make you buy the same figure multiple times to ensure that they keep squeezing that money out of you. Captains should have a shield. You see 2 of the 3 have shields, right? And, not to say that you can't switch them around, but 2 of the 3 have shields. The one that doesn't have a shield, you have to buy a whole separate figure in order for him to have the shield. And I get it. It kind of is in line with the character, the way that he appeared in the series. But at the same time, it's like, now let's talk about the shields. So I'm going to use this as an example. Red Guardian barely used a shield in the movie, but he comes with a shield, and his shield has both the clasp and the peg so that it can be stored on, you can have it on his hand in battle, or you can store it on his back, just the way that you saw in the film, right? Just the way that almost all the captains do on film. That's just the way shields work. All of them, except for Captain Carter, have a peg on their back, but only one of them, stock, without any bullshit, comes with the peg and the clasp so that you can do this, so that you can store it on their back. Why the fuck? So I was expecting Captain Carter to have something going on, some kind of peg, something, because she did put that thing on her back. But in regular Hasbro form, no such luck. I don't know. The shield for U.S. Agent. I was just talking about this a few minutes ago. Why do I have to buy 2 figures for him to have the shield when both figures play the role of Captain America at some point? You know what I'm saying? Like, just for the sake of having the accessory. So yeah, I'm not happy with that. Let's talk about the size of this shield. The shield is too small. It's supposed to be, and I know because she's big, the shield looked smaller in the show and all that stuff, but she should have a large size shield. This is where they could have reused Cap's shield and then just put a different icon, you know, a different flag in the center. I mean, you can see it for yourself. That's too small. That's a buck lore. That's not even a full-on shield. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. You know what I mean? And it's disappointing because I love these characters, you know, which is why I have them. So yeah, some disappointment there. Lightning Series Astronomer. You guys remember the video. You guys remember the drama. You guys remember the testimonials that were included in the video. You remember the close-ups. You remember the comparisons. The figure kind of speaks for itself. Hopefully the next version just fixes all the issues with this one, because my God, they really missed the damn mark with this. So I only have the one honorable mention, and of course it is the Mafex Psylocke. Often we get figures overhyped just because they're new, and people forget about the quality that we may already have. And this is one of those cases. It's not a crappy figure, but it's not the best ever, as people said. You know, like the best ever, as they always say. Not at all. But it was disappointing, you know, considering that it was almost $100, you know. Or actually, she goes for more than $100. Yeah. And the most unfun figure of 2021 is the Joy Toy Hurricane. My son predicted this. The crazy thing about this is the fact that it's Joy Toy, right? So you see the pictures and you're like, damn, I want to see what this is like. What does it do? You know, and standing alone, it may actually look the part. It's when you get it in hand and you actually get to fiddling with it. Holy shit. And I had so much to say. I didn't even give you the video. Now I'm going to give you some of that.
I hate this thing. This is the Joy Toy Hurricane. It's the quote unquote transformable mech. Right? It goes from bike to mech. You know me, I love the bikes. You've seen all my Kamen Rider bikes. You've seen like older bikes, like older bike riding things, like my I have all of these guys here because I love these guys. The what were they called? Nitro Riders. Love these guys. You know me, I love bikes. I've always loved bikes. I've shown you guys ways to, you know, kind of compensate for the over-expensive bikes that the companies choose to make for us out of shit materials. This thing is a fucking mess. And I noticed that, like, from the reviews, because I'm like, maybe I'm just missing something. But my homeboy, Dem Guts, he pointed it out. He was like, yeah, it's annoying to put back together and take apart, and, you know, it's parts forming, and it's just not fun. And he was 1,000% right. It was not fun. It is not fun. I do not enjoy playing with this thing. I have not enjoyed taking it apart and putting it back together. The instructions are kind of shit. They don't make sense. Joy Toy, you know, we expect 1,000% better than this from you, because everything else you've done has been so stellar. It just doesn't make sense to get such a shit attempt when it comes to, you know, putting this together. So initially, when I first saw this, I was like, yo, I need this because it's a transforming bike. And you remember we got Ashiko with the Joes, and it was kind of meh, you know, if I'm being honest, which I'm always honest with you guys. It wasn't the greatest. The bike is better in bike mode than it is in armor mode. So it was better to just, you know, leave him in the armor mode. I mean, in the bike mode, and just never take the take it apart and put it in a bike mode. Well, we have that same situation here. This thing is better in the robot mode because there's more you can do with it, and it's a little bit more stable than it is in the you know, the bike mode. Now, what I want to complain about though, because I have my complaints, and it's pretty simple. What are you reviewers doing? You know, why is it so many of you are just like if you notice, most of the reviewers are saying things like, I'm not really a fan of the the vehicle mode or the bike mode, so I'm just gonna leave it in here. They don't tell you how bad the robot mode is. They don't say, like, you know, it's a pain in the ass, like a straight up fucking pain. And this is one of those times where, I mean, I'll give Joy Toy a break. It's not going to turn me off to Joy Toy altogether, so I want to get that out the way. I know you guys watch the videos, Joy Toy. I know you listen to what a lot of us fans have to say. I'm not saying that this is going to turn me off from everything, because all the other stuff is pretty dope, you know? But this is unacceptable. We like a whole chunk of the fucking third-party Transformers game comes out of China, comes out of Hong Kong specifically. I shouldn't say China, out of Hong Kong. There's a lot of good designers out there, and you mean to tell me you couldn't consult with one of them to get this thing to be, you know, up to snuff? This thing is one of the worst figures. It's easily the worst thing I've bought all year. So that was all footage from the review I never posted. I was so annoyed with this thing, I was just like, fuck it, I'm not even gonna bother. But there's a lot of misinformation out there about this figure. A lot of people just kind of were like, meh, and then turned around and bought all the other stuff. Like, they didn't hold Joy Toy accountable, nor did you let them know that, you know, this didn't work out the way we needed it to, or the way that is palatable for us as fans of Joy Toy. Even the instructions, it shows you how individual components work, but it doesn't really show you how to get them all, like, from step one to the final step, you know, to get it to do, you know, from one thing to the next. You just kind of have to figure it out given the pieces that you see on the screen. And I mean, what the fuck, you know, if you're gonna make us parts form, then it's up to you to make it clear for us how we're supposed to parts form. I mean, that's kind of the point, right? It doesn't make sense for us to have to do so much of the work when this is your creation, this is your thing, this is you giving us, you know, this very labor intensive I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I mean, it's a lot of extra work, you know what I'm saying? There's small parts, there's pieces that need to fit together perfectly. Lots of stuff. I'm just gonna I'm talking over this footage because, you know, I reiterate a lot of my frustrations with this, and this isn't to say that there aren't some cool things here, like you're seeing right now. The big ass gun is pretty awesome. You know, it's like a heavy machine gun. I like that, or light machine gun, whatever. I like it. It's really cool, and you can use it with other Joy Toy figures. The drone can work. It's ugly as shit, but it can work. But the gun is a star. That light machine gun, heavy machine. It looks like it should be considered a heavy machine gun, but it's got all the parts so that you could easily put that with one of your standard Joy Toy figures, and it'd be awesome. It's just, even in robot mode, if the robot's holding this, it's awesome. But it's not awesome that you have to go through so much
just to get the maximum usage out of this thing. For me, I was fed up and I was like, yo, I hate this process. I'm going to glue this thing together, you know, at the parts that you would switch out for the parts forming to turn it into the bike. I'm just going to keep it in the mech form and use it as a support mech, because why would I go through the frustration of all the other shit? Like, all the reviews were so kind. No one said anything about the fact that the fucking wheels don't spin. I mean, you can fiddle with them to get them to kind of spin, but number one, they're made of the same plastic as the rest of the figure. The process of separating the wheels, as you can see right there, to use in the transformation, it's kind of cool to see that work when you separate the wheels in two and then put them back together and it forms a cohesive wheel, but it's not cohesive enough so that the damn thing spins. This thing needed more time, and it needed more work and consulting to get this thing to be, you know, the quality that can compare with shit like this Acid Rain Grampus. And the Grampus is only a bike, but it has multiple things to go with it. There's like a piece that goes over the front of the wheels, the front wheel, I mean, so that you get a different look, and it has an arm, a mechanical arm. You've got these grenade launchers that are mounted on the sides. I mean, it's dope. There's even a version of the Grampus that comes with a sidecar, and it's got guns and it's got ammo in there. Like, I don't even like the build quality of Acid Rain. I've explained this in many videos. The figures sometimes, overall, it feels like they cut corners to get that look. Like, they don't look dirty and grimy because that was the aesthetic. They look dirty and grimy because then they don't have to paint them accurately, and that works towards keeping costs low. You know what I mean? But if the quality of the figures is still like that, the quality of the vehicles is interesting enough like this, where it still stands up to some play, and you can find it for a decent price, there's no reason why I wouldn't buy that, the Grampus, over the fucking Hurricane. The Hurricane is a pretty paperweight. And I told you guys, I told you I was going to go off on this thing. I told you I was. And I mean, what's left to say? This thing is it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. You know, when you have companies like Jakks Pacific pushing out Apex Legends figures, and then you have Jazzwares pushing out Halo, Fortnite, Roblox, and all of their figures are stellar. There's no excuse. And we have made it through all that dookie. Now, keep in mind, it's not that everything was complete shit. Some of them were better than others. They're all good figures, but we needed to wade through to get to the good stuff. And here we are. Various Marvel Legends from the Black Widow series, Infinity Saga, and the Iron Man and Iron Heart and the classics Iron Man figures. Yeah, I picked up a bunch of Marvel Legends over the last year, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. I know some people will be like, what? The Black Widow stuff? I had more fun with the Black Widow figures than I did with the movie, because my own imagination allowed for me to fill in the blanks for stuff, and I know some of the characters I have are not up here, like I don't have Taskmaster up here, but I really enjoyed the shit out of those figures. I put the Thor up here because I'm a massive Thor fan, and this figure does a good job, you know, capturing Fat Thor, and he's still huge compared to everybody else. And then the Iron Man figures, I really dig the modular 90s modular suit Iron Man, because of, you know, Marvel superheroes and such, the game, and Marvel vs. Capcom and the old cartoon and whatnot. It's just that's my Iron Man. It's one of my Iron Man, you know, like from when I was a kid. And then there's the classic Iron Man and Ironheart, just beautiful sculpts. I kind of wanted the metallic version of the classic Iron Man, but I'll take this one for now. I'm just, you know, overall though, these are some really good Iron Man figures. I got into him a lot this year. We finally got an Ironmonger that's the right size now, so I'm really geeked about that. I also, because of this, have an Obadiah Stane figure. Actually, because of a lot of figures that came out this year, I was able to make customs, of characters that I needed better customs for. I mean, I was able to make kind of a more suitable villain version of Obadiah Stane in cheaper looking clothes. He's not wearing his fancy evil businessman attire, and I was able to make a Gordon, Commissioner Gordon figure. So now characters like Luis don't have to be on my shelf and in my setups by himself as the best dressed guy. You know what I mean? He actually has some other people to keep him company. So yeah, these guys are winning. Hasbro Black Series Mandalorian figures. I didn't really get that much in terms of Black Series, but these guys are all fucking dope. They just, I don't know, it's the usual pedigree, You finally got Mando in his Beskar, which looks great. The metal looks like metal, feels like metal. I mean, it's plastic, obviously, but it looks great. Feels the part, And you got Paz looking all strong and shit with all his guns and just huge with his armor and everything. I love it. The paint's good. The wear and tear looks good on that armor. And then, of course, you have Bo-Katan, and she just looks dope. She looks like Bo-Katan. I know people can get all nitpicky and shit, but I don't need that in my world. I'm not nitpicky. This is what she feels like in the series. If it's a really good likeness, if not a great essence of the figure, and that's all I need. That's why they're on the list. So remember I mentioned making customs? So part of it comes from this. So this entry is a threefer. So ZD Toys Mark 5 and the Mark 85, as well as the unmasked head for Tony Stark, also by ZD Toys, but it's sitting on a Marvel Legends body. So I always wanted a good Mark 5, like a really posable one that's accurate and tall. And I used to have the Reveltech one, and it's too short. So I got this one, and I love it. The Mark 85 is pretty cool too. He's perfect height. He looks stocky and tough and feels like a suit of armor. And when you use the unmasked head, that's a whole nother level. The unmasked head fits perfectly on your Marvel Legends bodies. You do have to put a little bit of Sculpey or glue tack or something on the inside, but it also sits perfectly on the larger scale bodies. And it does look small, because the body is so much bigger. But if you watch the show or the movies, look at the proportions of his head to the suit, and you can tell it's a dude wearing a suit of armor. His head looks a little smaller. I love it. I mean, you see it there. It works. It works even better, though, on the Mark 5. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I always wanted movie Iron Man suits, and I only have the Mark 6 before this. So, this, having these things all together, that body is the Obadiah Stane body, but, put the Tony Stark head on it, it works perfectly. But having all this together, this is fitting, it's fitting my quota for Iron Man stuff. So I'm going to just continue getting the movie suits from ZD Toys. I think they fit perfectly. But yeah, that's why they're on the list. These things are awesome. Jazzware's World of Halo line. I got a lot. I even have more than what's up here. This is mostly what I got last year. These figures are fun. And I know people, try to give props more so to the larger ones because 6-inch scale seems to be kind of like the trending scale, but these are amazing because everything that goes with Halo is offered here. You know, they haven't done ships and stuff yet, but like, I mean, just look at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at it. That Warthog is beautiful, beautiful. It's better than the old McFarlane one because it's just a more manageable size and it's made out of better materials. But the piece de resistance is the Mantis. This thing is amazing. And it was only $39.99 or $29.99, something like that. You can't beat that. I mean, for the price and the scale, I mean, look at it compared to that Trooper right below it. Like, that's quality. That's quality. Hopefully they do more and they keep getting bigger and better with these things, because I'm fucking loving them and I'm going to keep collecting. Joy Toy maintenance team. I think this is B. A, I think it's the white one. And yes, I know one of the guys is not there. He's still in the cargo bay working on some stuff. But yeah, I like these guys. I didn't think I was really gonna like them that much. I initially thought I was gonna be more into them and I would get both. But I've kind of been content with just the one because the prices have been kind of weird with these lately when you'd see them on the secondary. But these guys are a much needed and appreciated addition to my collection because, you know, I was using these build to rule figures. They're like construction dudes in jumpsuits to be my maintenance team. So now I got a lot of maintenance people. So my ship dioramas look real good and you'll see those. But yeah, she's my favorite of the girls. She's just the most practical looking one of the bunch. But yeah, they're all really well done, well painted, obviously. Some of their articulation could use some work because the range is not that great on the crotches, especially for the dudes. But, you know, when you play with them for a little bit and work them and then pose them, they become, you know, malleable and you can do what you need to do. And I wish, though, that they had more variety in terms of tools. But, you know, as it is, they serve the purpose, and I'm glad to have them. Been having a lot of good fun with these guys. Next up, we've got the G.I. Joe classified Snake Eyes movie figures. I do have everyone. I can't find Akiko right now. But, yeah, movie was garbage. Like I told you guys it was going to be. I was thinking that, you know, with who they had making the movie and the stunt team from the raid and everything for the fights, that the movie was going to be insane. But the director seemed like he had Parkinson's or something. So I'm not really surprised that this is another flop of a G.I. Joe live action film. They even fucked up the stories and stuff. But all that aside, this line had some really good figures. I think every figure was pretty good, with Akiko being the weakest. The strongest figure, in my opinion, would be Scarlet, but a close second is my boy Tamisaburo Arashikage. They did a really good job with this figure. It's just kind of simple and sublime, and you can see elements from the Rise of Cobra design, from his coloring all the way down to just like the way that his upper, you know, costume is more of a jacket, and it looks good. It looks really fucking good, and he articulates really well. And he looks badass. You know, he's a ninja that stands out when you have him amongst other ninjas and just amongst other characters because he's clad in that eggshell white kind of color. I would have preferred straight up, clean, clinical white, but this still works. But like I said, the star of the show, in my opinion, is freaking Scarlet. What is the actress's name? Samara Weaving as Scarlet, one of the scariest characters in G.I. Joe. She did the damn thing, man, and she looks the part so much better than what we got before. I'm surprised this figure didn't get more love. You know, I've seen her on the shelf a handful of times. Meanwhile, like the regular classified shit, I rarely ever see it. So it's kind of strange that, like, You know, looking online, of course, you can find her for crazy prices. But in stores, on the shelf, she's going for regular price, and she seems to be there fairly plentiful in comparison to everything else. But I love this figure. I hate the lack of weaponry that these guys all came with. I'm like, what the fuck is that about? Like, where? Seriously, what the fuck? Um, the Baroness. This is a good, like, Origins Baroness figure. You know, even though she looks like Lisa Loeb, um, I still think she looks awesome. The suit is awesome. The weapon storage in the back for the two kukri knives is amazing. The MP5 that she has is pretty dope. Um, the glasses are removable. Like this is a pretty good, like amazing, attempt. Snake Eyes is really nice too because there's lots of detailing going on him. But again, all he came with was the sword. I had to give him those Uzis and try to make him look a little bit more tactical. So Hasbro giveth and they taketh away. But these are some really fun figures. League of Legends, Thresh, and Fortnite The Prisoner by McFarlane. The League of Legends figure is actually by Spin Master. I was freaking surprised because that doesn't look like a Spin Master product. That looks like some shit from Jazzwares or Jax or even McFarlane. It looks along those lines. The materials are good. Everything's good. The McFarlane Fortnite figures, they've been hit or miss. My younger son loves Fortnite, so we had been picking up certain characters from McFarlane, and they always break. But the Prisoner didn't break. I don't know what the difference is, but he's chock full of detail, and then the same goes for Thresh. They kind of serve the same purpose or similar purpose. We use them with our Sword and Sandals figures as, demons or just, Sword and Sandals enemies for our various knights and barbarians and stuff to fight. And they do the damn thing and they do it well. I mean, there's nothing boring about these figures. They articulate perfectly and, they're pretty tough. So, yeah, been having tons of fun with these guys. NECA TMNT figures. These here, man, there's a lot of goodness here because I've been steadily collecting these to make up for my lost Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection from childhood. I'm not going to recap the drama that is the cause for me losing that collection or most of the collection, but it was some bullshit family stuff. So little by little, whenever NECA creates a new set of these figures, I go and I find the ones that were figures I had when I was a kid. This is about as nostalgic as I will get because, like I've told you guys before, the Dark Knight collection and the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line from Playmates were the two lines that kind of made me really into a collector. You know what I mean? That's when I realized that I wanted to keep these things to not only play with them, but to also have them on display in my man cave as I do right now. So, I went through a whole lot to get these guys. To get a couple of them. And then other ones kind of just fell into my lap. But every single one, every time I get a couple, it's just like my inner kid is just squealing, just pure happiness. You know what I'm saying? Like I sit down and geek out with these guys, and my sons will play around with me. It's cool to be able to share what I felt back then when this was at the height of the Turtles' popularity, and then feel that again now as an adult to some degree with these more cartoon accurate and posable figures, and the same for these movie figures that they're releasing. Those movie figures are like, I told you a long time ago, if that was the last thing I picked up ever, I'd be cool. But Mike and Wrath, I had to get help from my homeboy in Germany. Thank you, Bodie, to pick these up for me because we can't find these here. Not for regular price. And apparently these guys aren't as popular over there as they are over here, so I was able to finally get them. It was a long wait, but you know, once they came, I mean, either way, as long as I got them, I was cool. I mean, it was expensive, but it was worth it in the long run. I don't think I'm ever going to do that again, though, because that was a pain in the ass. And then, like, you know, it was during COVID. You know, I want to say we found them the beginning of COVID, and then the lockdown situation got worse. So sending things to anybody outside of your country is kind of difficult now, you know. So I mean, I think things have gotten a little bit more lax with sending things to and from the U.S. But I know, you know, with a lot of other places, there's customs and all kinds of shit you got to deal with, and tariffs, and you know, just it's a lot. But after the long wait, the patient wait, these guys came, and yeah, I'm so glad. I am so glad to have them, because you can't have the four turtles without them. Mondo Gecko, he was a Father's Day present. Yeah, I think he was a Father's Day present. It was either Father's Day or my birthday. My wife and son picked him up. He was awesome, or is awesome. I kind of sort of had like one of those moments where I was like, man, I kind of wish he looked more like the original figure when I saw ODC's Super 7 version. But this is still a great figure. It comes with a ton of accessories. Some I like, some I don't even give a shit about, like Kerma. Don't give a fuck, because that episode was terrible. But he's still awesome. I play with him just like I did the original one, which I still have. Casey Jones. This is the movie Casey Jones, the first one. He doesn't have the unmasked head. Thanks to Action Figure Addict 112, he helped me get this guy. I never saw him in the store out here. I take that back. I saw the 2-pack once when someone was leaving with it at Walmart, and then I never saw it again. So, you know, I was asking around, and this one happened to fall into my lap. So I found it, and you know, was willing to hook me up. So thanks again for that. And yeah, it's an awesome figure. All that cool sculpting. You know, it's just Ninja Turtles. Like I said, it was a big deal to me when I was, you know, a kid, and seeing all these things faithfully recreated, it's a big deal to me now as an adult. And I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm loving how everything's working out. Even the build quality of all these figures, it's stellar. They've improved, you know. So, you know, I haven't had the experience that Michael from Retro Blasting seemed to have had. Muckman. Muckman is dope. I had Muckman as a kid, and when I saw him, it was like I've told you before, the nostalgia hit, and I jumped on it. It was almost like an impulse buy, because I didn't really need Muckman, and I don't even remember him from the cartoon, because apparently this is what he looked like in the cartoon. I mean, it was probably terrible, because the cartoon versions of a lot of these characters, the way they were presented, was always terrible. But to see the figure look so great, even though it's skewed to that, I love it. Another from a bad episode was the last figure, which is Chrome Dome. Chrome Dome is ginormous, and I didn't really even know, like, he wasn't on my radar, and then I saw him, and I'm like, oh shit, they did Chrome Dome? I did not have his toy back in the day, because he was the same size as everybody else. And I remember that episode was terrible, and then I watched it. I rewatched it with my youngest son, and even he was bowing his head in shame with how bad it was. But there was that funny joke when they were going to create Ground Chuck and Dirtbag, and Shredder tasked Bebop and Rocksteady with finding the animals they were going to use to create their next set of mutants. And yeah, that shit had me rolling. Rocksteady was like, I'll get a wombat and a salamander. And Shredder broke character and was like, how about you just get a lion and a gorilla? And then he walked away slowly and quietly. I was like, what? But yeah, it's a cool figure. Very cool figure. Shit, he's not even in that episode. It's a 2-part episode and he's hardly in it. But anyway, the figure is still stellar. He's huge. He's imposing. His weapons look good. The extra hands work really well. I mean, quality shit, man. NECA is really doing the Lord's work. All right, let's talk about it. Acid Rain. This is Caleb, Tamara, and the Grampus. And that's the Keymaster. In my universe, we call him Fei Hong. He's a courier, so this bike is perfect for him. Now, I've talked a lot about how much I don't like Acid Rain, but in the last year or so, they've changed some things. You see all that color on Caleb's legs, and even on his alternate jacket. And the same goes for, there's a bike that comes with him called, what is it called? Anyway, it's similar to the Grampus. It's got a different front and everything. But the dirt is still there. You can see it. I didn't cover him in dust. That's the paint job. But there's color, and his face is cleanly painted. The Grampus, it looks old and worn, and it looks like one of those old school junk bikes that you see in like southwestern style photography and whatnot, or like a what do they call it, an old Bullet, an Enfield, or my brother he makes V-twin engines, and he puts them on the muskets, the old musket motorcycles. So yeah, it's one of those kinds of things. You know what I mean? It has that feel to it, and I dig it. You know me, I'm a dork for bikes and stuff, so that's been a big deal for me, and that's one of the reasons why I was drawn to this. Now, Tamara, I never had any of the female. I mean, I never had any Acid Rain figures. Period. She was actually the first, and she didn't disappoint. And I figured if I was going to start out getting any of the Acid Rain figures, it would have to be something unique, and a war correspondent is perfect. Even though in my universe there are places where it's nothing but war isn't as widespread as it used to be. So to have her being on those front lines, she looks the part. And if you notice, the head looks like someone else painted it, and then the figure itself is just covered in dirt and schmutz. And I dig that. I can tolerate that. It doesn't feel as bad as what I was talking about before with Acid Rain, and what seemed like a rule for them. But this aesthetic is what put them on my list, and I'm kind of glad to have them. All right, the Fortnite Mud Flap. Um, this has been on my radar mainly because of the figure that comes with it. It's relaxed fit Jonesy, but those of us who are older than 15 years old, we know that's the fucking Big Lebowski that he's imitating right there. And I have a soft spot for when companies make reference, or franchises make references to other characters when making their own character. You know what I mean? Kind of like how Imaginext had Walter White and was Jeremy Renner's character from the Hurt Locker, and Jason Voorhees. They had all these weird references to characters that aren't necessarily part of their world, but somehow they made them fit. I love that. It's something you'll see with my figures as well. But it's a dope vehicle, very dope vehicle. It's an RC vehicle, and then it comes with a fully functional figure. The thing can seat two, and I mean, there's just detail everywhere. I mean, look at these slippers. Like, they're freaking peely faces on the slippers. I mean, I don't know. This thing it's dope. It's a dope little combo right here. McFarlane. I bought a lot of McFarlane stuff. It's weird because each year since he started handling DC and stuff, I've been cherry picking through these figures, and they always catch my eye. Like the Mortal Kombat stuff. My favorite thing of Mortal Kombat is Mortal Kombat the series, and I keep picking up these figures because the current look reminds me of that series. Then there's the Spawn figures, and then all the DC stuff from the movies. I mean, that's probably the best sideboard they've done so far. Noob looks amazing. Freaking that Scorpion. I found him shortly after I found the Defenders of the Earth from Mecca. And I was impressed because I was like, man, I was expecting to find the classic. And then my wife and son got me Steppenwolf. And the Steppenwolf is nuts. John Stewart is nuts. Remember I reviewed him when we were on vacation. And not to mention the Star. He's like he almost was my top figure. And that's the freaking Gunslinger Spawn. I can't get enough of this figure. I haven't had a Spawn figure in like 20 some odd years. I want the classic Spawn, and I'm going to wait for that one that's on its way in the next, I think it's coming out sometime this year. But this figure here delivers on just about everything. The only gripe I have with him, you'll see it in the pictures as we come to the end, is his shotgun. His lever action shotgun. It's bendy. Actually, all his weapons are bendy. Because they're longer, they kind of warped a little bit, you know? And you can keep on heating them up and straightening them and whatnot. They're kind of straight weird. You know, that's my gripe. But this figure is amazing. I don't care that he's like 9 feet tall. That works. That could be the description. Tall hat, red coat. Freaking scary looking dude. But he's so posable. And he stands well, which is usually a problem for McFarlane figures. And not to mention, you know, the joints are well hidden, but they still are functional. I love this. And this isn't even the tip of the iceberg. Remember, last year we got so many other characters. We got the Suicide Squad from that amazing film. We got I got my first King Shark. I've never had a King Shark figure. I had to buy Harley, which is kind of like, but they gave us Etrigan. They gave us the freaking what's his face? Blight. They gave us, ignore this Batman, because it's what he's sitting on that's important. They gave us fucking Dr. Fate. They gave me a Dr. Fate. And not just any Dr. Fate, one of his best designs ever. They even turned around and made me get into customizing again with Bloodsport. And he was terrible out of the package. At the bottom, that's what he's supposed to look like with color correction and everything. And then when you hit light on him in the film, he looks like what I did right there. And I think I did a good job for my first custom in years. Peacemaker. I'd never thought we'd have a Peacemaker figure. I still have, somewhere in my house, I have the first issue from his solo book back in the, I think it was the early 90s or the late 80s. But again, King Shark, amazing figure. He's not very posable, but he doesn't need to be. It's his arms that need to do all the work. Etrigan, amazing figure. And I missed out on Etrigan from the DCUC line. And I don't know, it's just such a good figure. Blight. I didn't even know I needed this figure. And when I saw him, my son saw him, and we were like, yoink. I got him immediately. It's just, they're doing amazing things. Not to mention the freaking Bat Cycle. You know, I know it doesn't come from The Dark Knight Returns, but it looks like something from the future would fit perfectly with those characters. So, you know, McFarlane doing the Lord's work. This shit is amazing, and I'm happy to have it, you know? Transformers. So, I didn't want this to be a huge Hasbro thing, but I mean, this is pretty much Takara. Anyone who knows, they know. I'm a huge Transformers person. I didn't really realize that I was huge. It's more of a gradual thing because I have kind of a love for them as toys more than the lore. And some of the characters, it's because I read some of the comics during the Dreamwave run in the early part of IDW that I love these characters more. But the last year, we had the Studio Series, the 86 series, Studio Series 86, and we got some amazing figures based on the movie from 86. And some of them I had already, and we just ended up getting definitive versions of those characters. And then others like Jazz. We haven't had a good Jazz figure from Takara since back in the Reveal the Shield days. The Wheeljack is serviceable for me. He's great. I didn't have all the problems that a lot of people had, and you know me, I'm not that hardcore on like certain details being different. This here is Perfect Effect. I think Viovis is his name. Dope. Freaking Snapdragon. Dope. I had no interest in Snapdragon beforehand, and then I saw the figure and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try this guy out. He's dope. Cannot omit Earthrise Optimus. It's one of the best Optimus Primes they've ever given us. 86 series Grimlock. Amazing. Amazing. Last but not least, Grunt. Amazing weaponizer from Siege. I don't know, man. They just did amazing stuff that kept me playing the whole time. And the Masterverse line from Revelations. So say what you will about the show being, this, that, or the third. I think the first half was kind of meh. The second half was amazing. If they hadn't broken it up, it would have been amazing altogether, because then you really would have gotten the impact and you wouldn't have felt lied to as much. But the toys, and this is how I always feel with things, bad video games can have good soundtracks. Same thing with bad movies, etc. Good performances in a bad movie, blah, 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 whatever. But these figures, holy shit. The fact that I missed out on so many characters during the early part of the classics, this made up for it, And then the He-Man figure himself grew on me, him and Battle Cat. There's something about them proportion-wise and just the way that they look that at first didn't work for me. But then the more I played with them, the more I started to enjoy the fact that I had the freedom that I didn't have with the Classics versions, because the Classics versions don't have as much articulation as these guys. Villains like Spikor. I had Spikor when I was a kid, and I didn't have all his gear, though. He didn't have his other arms, so I was happy that they did that, although I wish he had the hammer. And Skelegod is an amazing figure, man. Amazingly well done and quality. His cape is beautiful. The good guys, I mean, look at them. Even that lame Tila, as lame as she was in the show, the design is nice. Fisto. I had Fisto when I was a kid. He was one of the only ones I had. And then I had the 2000X version of Fisto. I couldn't afford the $300 Classics version. And I get it, people love him, but what the fuck? You know what I mean? That was ridiculous. So I just kind of wrote him off, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna rock with my 2000X version, my Battle Fist. Then we end up getting Fisto again. So now I can have him alongside Man-at-Arms, because I go with the 2000X canon. They're brothers, and it works for me. Mossman. Never had Mossman. Friends did. We didn't like him because he smelled weird. Now I have him without that corny, furry finish that he had. That I don't know, whatever you call that. This is Sheila now. We're gonna call her Sheila from now on. This is not Tila with her cyberpunk Karen haircut. Battle Cat. It's a nice figure. Very nice figure. He's ginormous, which defeats the purpose of him being able to be Cringer when you take the mask off. It's got Cringer's face. But all in all, these figures are stellar, man. If you didn't get them, you need to get on that. They are amazing. And a funny thing is that these guys are mostly peg-worn now. It's like the one time that a show, you could divorce the figures from the show just based on the quality of the figures. People aren't really doing that. I've seen almost everybody on the shelf multiple times, and I haven't really been out often because I'm at risk, so I don't really go shopping hardcore like I used to. Maybe once or twice a month I'll get out and go check things out, and I've seen them each time. When my older son goes out, he's told me he's seen them. So, you can definitely find these guys, and it's better for us. We don't have to pay the crazy ridiculous prices that the classics are going for, and you're still getting quality figures that are, if you like to customize, they're open for that sort of thing. If you like them as is, they work as is. You're just not losing out in any way, shape, or form. So I would recommend taking full advantage because we don't get this often. So number 2 is a twofer. Well, it's like a bunch of figures, but 2 different lines. We've got the Mezco Punisher and the Mezco Wonder Woman. While she wasn't a perfect figure, she was damn close. And I had so much fun with her. And then the Punisher was like an unexpected piece for this past year. My homeboy Bodie, thanks again, homie, hooked me up with this figure. And I was just like, what the fuck, really? So, just by sheer surprise, that figure it had to be up here on the list, and it's an amazing figure. Then we have all the Joy Toy mechs I picked up last year. Last year was fruitful. I did a lot of freelance work, and I was able to get some extra stuff, so I was able to go back, find mechs that I was looking for, and, kind of add to my ranks, Now, most of these are variations on the steel bone with the Freeman in the center. So me, my universe, my collection skews more to the 4-inch than the 6-inch. I do have a ton of 6-inch stuff, don't get me wrong, and 7-inch and even some 12-inch shit. But the Fenris verse is a 4-inch world. So, I have things that are compatible with that. So these here get more play than the 6-inch stuff. And just look at them. They're amazing. They just capture your imagination. And that's why they're on the list. And lastly, we have the Spear team. Love these guys. I call them Longinus Core, as in the Spear of Longinus. And they're just so unique looking. And, these were before all the repaints and all the bullshit that they're doing right now, which is something I've never been fond of, not from Hasbro and not even from Joy Toy. And then we have the Hephaestus Core, which is the Steel Hammer team. They're really awesome. They look like heavies, and they're unique. I know their color scheme is not like the greatest, most appealing color scheme, but they look like the guys who you send in to get the job done, in deep space, dealing with whatever manner of, enemies they may come across, human or otherwise. So these guys are the third part of technically they're the second part because they're Joy Toy of the number 2 spot. I love these dudes, and I didn't want my whole list to be all Joy Toy. So, this is where they end up. All right, so we're going to start off with the Figma Arthur from Fate's Prototype and Joan of Arc from Fate Apocrypha. These Figma figures I had been looking at for a long time, and I had to wait. With Arthur, he's one of the most expensive Figmas I have. I had to wait till I did a job where I had a little extra to get him. And with Joan of Arc, I had to wait till the 3rd pre-order. The 3rd time they put her up for pre-order after she sold out a couple times. They're well worth it. I love the Fate series. Next, we have Reveltech Yamaguchi, My Hero Academia deck. This figure is awesome. He almost was a tie for the best figure of the year with the figure that's about to see. But that weird, I call it generic, I'm trying to cake off storytelling that you get with My Hero Academia. How it's taken so long for us to find out what happens to this guy, kind of brought him down a bit, but the figure on its own, it's an amazing figure. I mean, look at it. It's kind of hard to compare to other figures when this figure does so much. You know what I mean? He's just a work of art, and I love it. He's another one I had to wait till the second pre-order to get him, but yeah, he was well worth it, and I've been having fun with him ever since. And now for the number one most fun figure of 2021, the Sentinel Miles Morales figure from Into the Spider-Verse. This is my first Sentinel figure ever. I've always been looking at them. They do mechs and stuff really well. And I was waiting for them to do superheroes that I was interested in at a price that I could afford. And GameStop had that special on this figure, so I got him for about $70. Or was it 80 something, 85 bucks, something like that. But anyway, it was well worth it. This figure is it's like 3 figures worth. And that's the value in the package. That's not even mentioning, you know, just the amazing articulation and then the build quality of the figure and the balance of the figure and just the quality overall of the joints and the sturdiness and the fact that they sat down and said, yo, what can we do to make it easier for you to change out things so that your figure can have multiple looks? What can we do to make the hands last longer, the pegs in the hands last longer? Make them shorter, make them thicker. What can we do to allow you to not have issues with his joints because he's so skinny? Let's just make all the joints like thick. You know what I mean? Like find a resting size that's perfect width-wise for such a skinny figure so that moving him around, you won't have any problems, and make sure that the movement, you know, the connection of the joints is buttery smooth. And then you don't have any problems. This guy blows away every other version of the figure, you know, of the character that we've had. I know some people swear by Mafex, but you'll see over time the cheap clothes are going to fray. Over here, his clothes are sculpted. So not only will you get the poses that you want because of the fact that, you know, they're kind of leading you with the way that the material works, but it's not going to fray or anything. And I just love that. I mean, if you're going to pay a whole bunch of money for a figure, don't you want that figure to last? I mean, it's strange how often that's not taken into consideration when the figure is, you know, conceived. And then it's even like more strange or stranger to me that collectors don't look at that stuff, you know? But I was pleasantly surprised with this figure. It was well worth the wait, which was a long ass wait. And he just does everything well. Everything well. It came with an unmasked head. I didn't put that in the pictures, but it comes with an unmasked head. Comes with so many accessories. Even comes with little pegs that you put into the joint holes when you are not using certain parts, like the extra arms or extra legs or whatever, just so that the joints don't close up and get too tight. This figure is just a masterclass in accuracy to the source material and then how to make a figure that lasts, and that's why he's the best figure of 2021. I'm still having fun with this guy. But yeah, that brings our show to an end. There was a lot of goodness last year. Even in the Unfun figures, they were still good. Many of them were still good figures. They were just lacking in some areas. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sitting through this whole thing. And these videos take a lot of work. So please, if you haven't already, subscribe. Give me a like. Dislikes don't seem to matter anymore, but if you don't like it, give me a dislike. Let me know what your top most fun figures were of last year. Let me know what your most unfun figures of last year were. And yeah, as usual, stay tuned for more goodness. You know how I do. I've got a pretty big video for you guys coming up next. And yeah, check me out on Patreon. Check me out on you can buy me a coffee if you like what I'm doing. And yeah, that's about it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.